Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Mushroom Wonderland. Today, me and my dogs are gonna go into the woods and try to find some chanterelle mushrooms and just describe whatever mushrooms we find along the way. But it is chanterelle season here in September of 2024. We've had these late summer rains here in Western Washington, which has really kicked off a lot of wonderful edible fungi. So people love chanterelles, one of the most popular edible forageable mushrooms out here, easy to identify. And there's white ones and there's gold ones growing out here. So come with me and my dogs into Mushroom Wonderland. Thanks for hitting subscribe. Let's go. We're gonna go picking chanterelle mushrooms, white chanterelles, gold chanterelles. They're everywhere this year here in the Puget Sound. So I have a 5-gallon bucket with me, just a Lowe's bucket that I spray painted a little bit and then drilled a bunch of holes in so that water can drain out if it happens to start raining. But the reason I made it camouflage is just sometimes I'll fill it up and I'll have to resort to a foraging bag in my backpack, and I can just stash this in the woods and nobody's gonna walk away with my mushrooms. So a 5-gallon bucket though, you can fit a lot of mushrooms in here. So as I look right down here, just starting out on the walk, see here in the bushes, beautiful golden chanterelle, there she is. This is what we're looking for. So gonna see how many of these we can find, just growing alongside the road out here. The chanterelles like growing with these Douglas fir and western hemlock trees. This is a lot of Douglas fir that's probably 25 to 30 years old or so. And the fungus literally grows onto the tips of the roots of the trees, and that's where the fruiting bodies start to get produced. And so anywhere you find these pretty mature trees, there's a good chance you're gonna find these kind of ectomycorrhizal fungi, because they need each other, really. I mean, the trees don't grow healthy without the fungi, and then the fungi just will not fruit without a mature host tree. So really nice relationship going on out here, but pretty easy to track down the mushrooms when all you got to do is look for these huge trees that are 40, 50, 60 feet tall, you know. And so if I'm just staying on this logging road and just looking on the sides, we'll run into chanterelles. You really don't need to go too far off of the beaten path to find chanterelles. So here we go. I'm going to use my knife and cut it down there. There we go, a big white chanterelle. Look at that, perfect. So how perfect, I was just talking about it, and then here it is, just growing right on the side of the trail. So I have a feeling we're going to see a lot more of that. Alright, we just came into a pretty nice patch of white chanterelles. So here beneath the salal, this salal brush is always around wherever I find chanterelles. I usually am right around salal within a stone's throw. And then you can see all these conifer trees, these big trees that are right here. It's the tips of the roots that these mushrooms are growing with. And look at how big these are. These are just gorgeous, really thick chanterelles. So I plucked that one, kind of hard to hold the camera and cut them at the same time, but I like to cut them just to keep the bucket clean. And look just how clean these are. Just, you know, wipe the leaves off before you put them in your bucket, but really nice. Chanterelle subabitus. All right. This one's got something called rose comb mutation. So see that? It's a bunch of like gills trying to grow on top of the cap. Very contorted, strange morphological feature that happens to a lot of chanterelles. It's not really unusual.
You know, there's something online that talks about like maybe it's attributed to petroleum being in the soil or something like that, but there's no proof about that. So anyways, I'm not doing the cleanest job when I'm holding the camera, just saying, but you can see getting a nice little haul just out of this one spot. Really nice. And they could be all up in here, but I'm not trying to get too wet and go too far into this brush, so I don't think I really have to. I can just kind of cruise on the road and keep finding spots like this. Ready? Go. We're starting to get some here. Off to a pretty nice start. I've been walking like 5 minutes down the trail, if that. This has been an awesome September so far from a mushroom forager standpoint, because it used to be like this back when I was young. It seemed like September was the beginning of fall, and that's when the rains would come. You know, we would start school and you would be bundled up kind of in your rain gear right at the beginning of the school year. But the last several years have been really hot all the way through September here with no rain. And so there's some years where it just doesn't rain all the way up to like November, and then a cold front moves in and it just kind of skips mushroom season. But this year it's just been ideal because it's been warm, it's been wet. It's actually like cool for summer, but this is just ideal conditions, around 60 degrees, rainy and moist, and there's just mushrooms starting to pop up all over the place, and especially these ones that are valuable. People love to eat chanterelles and lobster mushrooms, and they're just everywhere this year. So really exciting, and it's a lot of fun picking them when there's this many. You know, I preserve them by drying them and then putting them in nice little packages, giving them to family members. At our forays, we give them away. Sometimes we sell them. So there's always a use for chanterelles. The way I see it, they're just going to rot out here on the vine, as it were. So you might as well pick them, carry their spores around a little bit. That's going to really help to proliferate the spores and kind of get them out into the woods. So I think picking the mushrooms can have its advantages. So I really start to slow down when I see moss on the forest floor. That is an indicator of a good habitat for chanterelles. They really kind of like the habitat where moss grows because it's dark and it's damp and there's not a lot of wind or sunlight. And that's kind of where the chanterelles like to grow. Oh, look at that. Ooh, nice goldies. So here's some Chanterelles formosus, and you see that one
caught my eye. Pretty obvious. Ooh, the bottom of the stem not looking so hot. But that's my flag, right? So that's the indicator. Tells me there's some chanterelles here. And as I look back in here, I see more little flashes of this orange poking out from under the moss. Look at that. Another one up here, tangled up under the salal brush here. A couple more. You gotta get up in here. Here's a nice little fruiting of them under the bush. Ooh, that's just one gorgeous one. Look at the size of that one. Beautiful Chanterelles formosus, the Pacific golden chanterelle. They definitely grow in troops, you know, you'll find them. If you find one, there's usually more right around it. So that was a nice little haul of goldies. And if I went up there into that brush a little deeper, no doubt I'd find probably a lot more. Oh, I see another one down in there that's calling my name, but it's tough getting into the, oh, look at that. Two beauties. Come on out. Come on out. You guys got chosen because you're so beautiful. There we go. And so these grow in these big troops. So where you see one, slow down. You're probably going to find more. So the gold one tipped me off right back here. That's a thick one. Look at that, thick with 2 C's. And growing right next to a few really, really nice white ones. These guys are just chunky as all get out. Look at those. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. This is how you fill up a bucket pretty quick when you're finding big chonkers like these. Gorgeous. Loki, you're not helping. He literally comes right on in. He'll just step on mushrooms that I'm clearly looking at. It's like he does it on purpose. Oh yeah. There we go. Nice white chanterelles. They're just in great shape. And so I'll cut that stem base off and you can throw that in the woods and it could create a new colony. So I throw my stem bases a little ways away. Look at how solid those guys are. Rarely are these eaten by bugs. They just seem to be really insect resistant. And I can be kind of picky out here right now because of the crazy amount of chanterelles growing in the woods right now. I can be quite picky and cut off all the dirt, you know. Really try to keep a nice clean bucket. If you go to a buyer stand with these to try to sell your chanterelles, they want them clean, especially when they're out in abundance like this. It becomes a contest of who is the cleanest harvester. So clean, really nice right now. Look at our native evergreen huckleberry right now. This one, Vaccinium ovatum. These are very nice size. Now, some people might say, oh, blueberries. But we call these huckleberries. Vaccinium's a pretty big genus of plants, and a lot of them make berries that get the common name huckleberry. But these are the evergreen black huckleberries that grow here. And when they're in season and they're ripe and plump, you know the chanterelles are in season and ripe and plump. Look at this. Right as I'm talking, right down in here. So here you go, synonymous. Evergreen black huckleberry and your chanterelle, they fruit at the same time. Keep that in mind. Chanterelles have a really kind of a fragrant odor. It's kind of a sweet smell, and some people say it smells like apricots.
I don't know if it's just a color association thing, but it is a really pleasant smell, and it's very unique. Once you smell a chanterelle, you know what they smell like for life. Oh Lord, look what we came across right here on the main trail. Oh man, golden chanterelles everywhere. Everywhere. Oh wow. Oh wow, that's a big fruiting. All right, came to the right spot. I'm gonna get to work right here on some of these golds. Oh, as we go a little in here, look at how golden that guy is. Oh, they're all back in here too, everywhere. Whoa, I might be filling up that bucket pretty quick. Look at the Chanterelles formosus and all of its beauty. That is a handsome mushroom. Wow, little baby came up with it. So this one past its prime, got a little damaged and it's a little bruised, but I see that fleck of orange all over in here. Oh, you see them? So this is one of these patches where I'm gonna need to get to work a bit. Look at that, more peeking out of the moss just everywhere. So yeah, fun mushroom picking in these circumstances for sure. Dang, our bucket is like really getting filled up now. It is just epic out here. Some of the tips I would give you for successful chanterelle hunting is get into a conifer forest if you're here in the western United States. East of the Rockies, typically like oak, but here in the west, Douglas fir, western hemlock, these are great habitats to find beautiful chanterelles. Another thing, look for moss on the forest floor. That's going to indicate a kind of habitat that doesn't get a lot of sun, doesn't get a lot of wind, and might retain a lot of moisture, and that's what chanterelles really like. So they're connected to the trees, and they like it down in the damp under canopy of these conifer forests. So if there's a lot of sun and a lot of grass, grass is an indicator of a lot of sun, and certain plants, you could tell that a lot of sun gets there. Wherever there's this thick salal and black huckleberry, Oregon grape, sword fern, these are good indicators because they like to live under the canopy of the large conifer forest, and that's where chanterelle mushrooms also like to live. So I look for a mossy floor. I look for the salal and the black huckleberry bushes. That brush, it can be a pain in the butt, but that is the kind of habitat where the chanterelles like to grow. These trees are about 30 to 40 years old. That's kind of the prime spot for ectomycorrhizal mushroom host trees. So I'm in an area that was logged and replanted like 30 years ago. So it's just prime right now for chanterelles. And chanterelles don't seem to grow in really ancient old growth forests that much. They kind of like these younger forests. So keep that in mind. And don't be afraid of the rain. Mushroom season here in Washington State means rain, and it is welcome from me. We had an awesome summer, so now it's time for fall, and the mushrooms know it. They're just everywhere, and I'm so excited about finding this many mushrooms. So me and the dogs are having a lot of fun out here. We're gonna head into the woods. Me and the dogs are running right now. We heard some other people in the forest. I don't want people finding my monstrous golden chanterelle patch, so I try not to get seen out here. That's also partially the reason for the camouflage bucket, is I'll hide it. You know, if you spend a lot of time out discovering your own patches, you don't want someone just coming along and seeing what you're doing. So I try to stay secretive out here where nobody sees me. I'm like a phantom in the forest, sneaking around like a mushroom bandit. Sometimes I'll run into brush pickers out here, and I've been very startled before bumping into somebody here on the trail that had like a huge amount of brush on their back, and I was looking at the ground looking for mushrooms, and I look up and I just see this mountain of brush with eyes looking at me, and I screamed right in his face, and it was this guy that was picking brush out here, and we both peed our pants a little and then had a good laugh, so it wasn't all bad. I'll tell you what, carrying a bucket full of chanterelles gets a little bit heavy after a while. And so like commercial pickers, professional mushroom pickers, they have what's called a pack board. So it's like this backpack that has a frame, and then you can put your buckets or baskets on it and strap it on with some bungee cords and then carry all this stuff on your back. I just brought the one bucket today, and you know, it's a little more than halfway full, but it's actually quite heavy. There's quite a few pounds of chanterelles in here. So if you're going miles and miles, you definitely would want to invest in a pack board. But just for a day hike, this 5-gallon bucket should be more than enough to feed you and your family and friends for a couple days, you know. And make sure to check out the rules and regulations about harvesting. This happens to be on private land that I have permission to be on. And so there really aren't any rules as far as this property goes, but if you're in a county or a state or a national park, they do have guidelines, and if a ranger saw you with a 5-gallon bucket full of mushrooms, they might get mad. So make sure to check the regulations where you are. They're kind of different everywhere, but usually it's like around 1 gallon or something like that. So anyways, be sure to do that so you don't get in trouble. A couple of the spots that I've been at today, I have picked every fruiting body out of those in years past, and they come back stronger than ever. It doesn't matter if you're plucking or cutting or picking the mushrooms or not. Try not to trample everything too hard or tear up a lot of the moss, but fungi is pretty resilient and it lives there in the soil. You're just picking the fruiting bodies, and so you're really not doing a lot of harm to the fungus under the duff. And in fact, in some ways it seems like it creates stimulation. Like, there's been times when I pick out a patch like that golden patch that I was just at, and pick every fruiting body, and the next year they'll come back doubly. So I really don't think that it makes a difference, and it might potentially stimulate some growth too. So there's that. So I don't know. I've picked these patches over and over for years, and they continue to fruit every year after year. I'm not doing damage to the mycelium, and neither will you if you go out and fill up a bucket of chanterelles for you and your family. Look at right down in here. Oh boy, that's a big one. Look at that. You know, I've got a theory that you always find the biggest one on the way back to the car. So beautiful mushrooms today. Get out there. The mushrooms are popping right now. Wild mushroom season is with us. So get out there, get your golden chanterelle. Stay tuned to Mushroom Wonderland. You can support me on patreon.com. Just look up Mushroom Wonderland. Follow me on all the other social media platforms. So if you want information about everything I'm doing, all the upcoming fungi events this fall, go to the description of this video. I have links to all of my social media channels, to my Patreon, my PayPal if you want to buy me and these puppies, puppuccino or something like that. You can hop over to mushroom-wonderland.com, get yourself some merch. I'm also teaching mycology classes at the Olympic College. It's a 3-part course. You could go to olympiccollege.edu/continued education and look up mycology, and you could take this 3-part course, and we do a foray at the end. Going to be super fun. Also doing guided tours into the forest. So far, all of them have sold out really quick. I'm considering putting a few more out there, so stay tuned for that. And until the next episode, much love, everyone. Peace out.